What's going on, everyone? Today we are taking a look at the Cookingpal Multo. This thing is like the ultimate cooking device of the future. Not only does this make cooking very easy by walking you through the entire process, but it also combines a ton of different kitchen appliances into one. This is not only very convenient, but also helps clear up a ton of kitchen counter space as well. Looking at the specs, this thing can do a ton of different functions. I'm going to go over the whole entire list right now, so bear with me because this is going to be a very long list. This can saute, steam, knead, chop, weigh with the built-in scale, keep warm, boil, whisk, grind, mix, stir, grate, and more. I don't know about you, but for this single device to do all of that, I find very impressive. If that wasn't enough, this device also includes a 8.9 touchscreen tablet you see here, which not only controls this unit, but also gives you guided recipes and the ability to monitor the progress of your cooking. This tablet can either be used on the stand like I have it now, or in back of the tablet, they also have a built-in stand, so you could just lay it down like this and view it on your counter as well. You also don't need to keep it next to the machine, so if you wanted to, you could just carry this with you and monitor your cooking from an entirely different room. Alright, so on this machine here, you only have this one large button. Every other control and how you control this and all the settings are all done through this tablet here. So when you first turn it on, this is the screen you are shown, and you can either go with cooking modes or guided cooking. Guided cooking is basically all the recipes where it basically holds your hand and helps you through the entire way to make a recipe. And then you have cooking modes, whereas if you don't want to use a recipe here, you want to cook on your own, you just come over here and it'll show and let you do all the different device functions. So first off, let's go ahead and look at guided cooking. As I said earlier, this is a touchscreen device, so you can either just touch it like that, but if your hands are a little dirty and you don't want to dirty up the entire screen, you could just use this dial here instead, which rotates, but you could also click as well, so you can go ahead and page down like that, and then just scroll here. So this way you only get the dial messy, and you don't get a bunch of fingerprints and food residue on the screen. Accidentally clicked on something. All right, so you have a bunch of different recipes here. As I said earlier, this is a touchscreen device, so you can either just touch it like that, but if your hands are a little dirty and you don't want to dirty up the entire screen, you could just use this dial here instead, which rotates, but you could also click as well, so you can go ahead and page down like that, and then just scroll here. So this way you only get the dial messy, and you don't get a bunch of fingerprints and food residue on the screen. Bring this in closer so you can see it. So you got basic recipes, family favorites, special diets, main dishes. There's a ton of different recipes in here. There's no way you're going to be able to make all of this unless you just really hammer down and start making everything in here every single day. But the great part about having all these recipes is most likely you're going to be able to find something you like in here easily. If you don't want to scroll like this, also use the search function here. This is one of the recipes I already used and made, which is very good, by the way. But one thing I searched here today was pizza. I'm not going to be using one of these recipes, as I do have my own recipe I'll be using with this today. But if you wanted to make pizza like I'm going to be doing today and you don't have your own recipe, they do have some recipes in here as well. Different kinds of pizza, even pizza dough from scratch, pizza balls, which is like little party favorite pizzas, Sicilian pizza, and so on. Alright, so when you really like a recipe, you can go ahead and favorite it as well. So as you can see here, I have the cheesy Italian meatballs, which I made already and I like. So I put it in my favorite so I can make it again. So as you make recipes, if you like how it turns out, you can just go ahead and add it to your favorites. So when you click on a recipe, this is what you see. It's going to give you all your ingredients here, so you can go ahead and prepare ahead of time and get everything you need. And then when you go to Let's Start, basically it's going to prompt you through all of this. So go to Show Details. It's going to show you step by step, almost like watching a cooking show. So right there you have what to do, when to add it, what mode to set it on, and so on and so on. So let's go ahead and push Let's Start and give you a little sample of this. So right here we have the built-in scale. So at this point you'll see all your ingredients and you weigh them out ahead of time and set them to the side so you can have it ready for the recipe. Like I said earlier, this doesn't have a built-in scale. So as you see, I just touch it and it automatically starts detecting the weight. Once you have everything scaled there, that's when you see it'll present you with the actual recipe and you'll start the actual cooking. So the cool thing about guided cooking is, as you can see here, it'll tell you what to do. It'll tell you to set scale mode. So you come over here, set the scale, and do what it says. So it says to add 1 teaspoon salt, 1 teaspoon pepper, so on. And then you'll mix. It tells you right here, push start. So you just click it here, and it'll automatically set this to mix at the speed it needs to be mixed at, and also set the timer as well. So the whole entire way, you're just clicking through and pushing start, and it's helping you along the way to set everything on this machine for you. So yeah, here there's a lot of recipes you can do. There's a lot of things you can do on the guided side. I've seen there's a few videos on YouTube already that just kind of click one of these recipes and they kind of let you watch as the machine and them cook with it. But I wanted to show you another side of this, and that's that you don't have to use this guided recipe part, but you can also cook your own recipes. So if you don't want to use guided recipes and have a recipe of your own, instead of going to your kitchen and using the pots and the oven and so on, you can do everything right here in the unit. And that's what I'm going to be doing today. Alright, so anyone who knows me in real life for sure knows one thing, and that is I love pizza. In the last few years, I have also got into making pizza from scratch, which includes both the dough and the sauce. I also have a Gozney Roccbox Oven, which is how I cook most of my pizzas. I don't have a mixer, so to make pizzas, I have to use 2 different scales to weigh out the ingredients, and then I would mix and knead the ingredients by hand. So from the sounds of it, with all the features this has, this device should really help simplify and speed up my entire pizza making process. So first things first, let's go ahead and prepare the ingredients for the dough. I've gone ahead and printed out all my ingredients I need for the amount of dough I'll be making today. I have this saved onto my phone as baker's percentages, and if you aren't using baker's percentages yet, it's definitely the best and easiest way to scale any recipe to the exact size you need. Which reminds me, when you use the guided recipes on this as well, any recipe you click, you can also scale it up or scale it down. So if you're cooking for more or less people, you can easily tune the recipe to make just the amount you need as well. Alright, so first things first, the first thing you want to do is click over here to mold. And this is where you have basically your manual operations for the unit. So first thing we have to do is weigh out our dough. You see we have the scale here. You can set what kind of measurements you want. I have my recipe written in grams, so that's what we're going to use. So cool thing about this unit is this entire device is a scale. So you can either put your ingredients directly into the bowl and weigh it that way, or what I like to do is place a small container right up top and weigh it here. This way, if I accidentally add too much, I can take some out, then dump it into the bowl, tear it, and continues to start weighing the next item. So to make the dough, first we need some flour, which I have here. You can use any kind of flour, but this is the kind of flour I have available locally, which is pretty good. So this is what I've been using. I would need a much larger bowl if I wanted to weigh this separately. So for the dough, I'm just going to dump this directly into the bowl. So like with any other scale, the first thing you want to do is tear it. If you have the lid on, it'll show negative. So when you take off the lid, you want to click that tear. Make sure it shows 0. And then go ahead and place in your flour. For this recipe I'm doing right now, I need 297 grams of flour. Let me go ahead and start with that. Alright, so we're 295, but that's okay. I'll just add a little less water and we'll be okay. Alright, so now I'm going to do my smaller ingredients. That's where I'll just tear it again. Well, I should have just waited to tear it, but now that I added the bowl, I'll just hit tear once again, make sure it's at 0. And now I can start adding the rest of my stuff. Well, I entirely goofed up there. I was looking at the wrong part of my recipe, and I actually need 496 grams of flour. Now I just got to do the math and add the difference to get my flour up to 496. Alright, so one small thing I noticed right now is this doesn't actually show in smaller digits for some reason. When you start at a lower number, it shows you every single thing like 7 grams, 8 grams, 9 grams. But when you get up to past 150, or I don't know what it was, it starts counting by 5. So I'm not sure if there's a setting I have to mess with. But for now, it's only showing me in 5. So since I needed 201, I just did it up to 200 grams and added a little bit more. And that should put me at my 201, or roughly a little over, a little under, but shouldn't really make a difference. Alright, so next I need 15 grams of salt, which I already put in here. So I just dump that in. Move on to the next ingredient. Tear that once again. So one slight con is this is not an extra sensitive scale. So if you're someone who bakes often, you might know you'll deal with smaller percentages, smaller weights of things like under a gram. Like right now, my yeast needs 0.8 grams. This can't measure that low and doesn't measure that accurately. So if you're someone that uses recipes like me, you'll still need to use one of these small scales in addition to this. All right, so I got my yeast weighed out on my small scale. This is how much it is total. So this is why you will need a smaller scale like that, because this is very hard for most regular scales to measure out. All right, so last thing is place my water in, which this calls for 297 grams. All right, so we got 295. As I said earlier, I needed 297, but this doesn't show increments of ones. It just shows 295. Then after that, it'll jump to 300. So we're okay right there. I'll just leave it like that. All right, so that's all we have for the ingredients, as I'm making a pretty basic Neapolitan dough recipe today. So once you put this on, it has a little thing that latches back here. It also latches here. So once you turn it, it'll make that noise, and that's when you know it's properly closed. All right, so now we got to get this kneaded. So again, this is where we have all of our functions at. Let me go ahead and bring this a little closer. So that's where we have our knead. And then you just set it for how long you want it to knead. So let's go ahead and set this for 1.5 minutes, and we'll see if we need any more after that. So then you just click start, and the machine is going to start kneading the dough. All right, so now it shows we're done, and as you can see, hopefully, maybe not once I speed this up, but this little green light around here actually goes around to show you the progress of what's going on in the machine as well. All right, so after 1.5 minutes, this is what the dough looks like. So as you see, there's very, very, very minimal residue on the container. No water, no loose ingredients. Just the dough feels nice and stretchy, feels good. I don't feel any roughness or texture in there. So looks like 1.5 minutes was good enough to get it nice and well kneaded. So as you can see at the bottom of the pot, you have these blades. So it works similar to a blender or a food processor. But yeah, very impressive. Normally to get it like this kind of texture, normally takes me about 8 to 10 minutes by hand, but 1.5 minutes, all nice and done. So this is gonna save me a lot of effort and a lot of sore arms as well. All right, so I have my dough in a bowl now. It needs to sit in here for 1 hour. After that's done, I'll go ahead and divide it into smaller balls, and then that needs to sit out for an additional 12 hours to proof. So I'll go ahead and let the dough do its thing, and I'll come back tomorrow so we can prepare the sauce and finish making this pizza. All right, so I have my dough upstairs that's been proofing for about 16 hours and is now ready to be used. I also already shredded my cheese and have that good to go as well. So now we just need to go ahead and prepare the sauce, which we'll be using the Multo for as well. For this, we'll be using 1 jar of this multi passata. And then I have my spice mix here already got it all mixed up in here. It's about 10 or 11 different spices, so I didn't want to be here all day weighing everything on camera. So I just did that ahead of time. So I know some people say you should never cook your pizza sauce, but personally, I like the flavor and consistency better if I let it cook for a few minutes. So that's what I'm going to do here. So we'll go ahead and dump in our ingredients. Got my sauce here. And then my spice mix. Go ahead and close our machine. Same noise as before, let you know when it's closed. So we got to come back to our tablet here. Go to manual mode. Then we're going to set the blade to stir. I'm going to try it on speed 2. I'm going to put this for 10 minutes. Then we'll set it to 205 degrees. All right, so once I hit start, this is going to continuously stir the sauce for me while cooking it as well. So not only is this going to keep it from burning, but also make it much easier because now I don't have to stand around a pot and keep stirring it myself. All right, so now we have the dough and the sauce ready. And as I said earlier, I already shredded my grande mozzarella cheese, so we're fully ready to start making these pizzas. If you're going to be making a pizza, make sure you are using some quality ingredients. Otherwise, you might be able to make a decent homemade pizza. But if you want to make a pizza that'll somewhat rival your local restaurants, then that's where using high quality ingredients is an absolute must. All right, first thing you want to do is put down some semolina or some flour. Make sure your dough's not sticking. Press it out. You want to kind of push the air out to the edges of the crust. And then I do this part the beginner's way, where you just kind of let the dough hang and let gravity do its thing. And then that stretches out your dough into a circle. There's many other ways to do this, but this is what I learned with, so this is what I kind of just stuck with. All right, so I got my dough pressed out. It's not a perfect circle, and if you start making homemade pizzas, you're gonna see it rarely ever is. Sometimes they might even start out like a perfect circle here. Once you pop it in the oven and take it out, it's probably gonna be football shape or whatever odd shape. But I mean, as long as it tastes good, fine with me. Go ahead and put the sauce on. I don't make a specific type of pizza. I just kind of load everything on pretty heavy. I like a lot of sauce, a lot of cheese, a lot of toppings. So that's what I do when I make my own pizzas. All right, then I have some pepperonis, which I also get from a local pizzeria. I like their pizza, I like the pepperoni, so I asked them if I could buy some. They said okay, so now I end up buying a few of these little cups full of pepperonis every month or two. Just throw them in the freezer and freeze them. Whenever I want to use them, take them out. Like I said earlier, I like a lot of toppings, so get that nice and covered with pepperoni. Maybe even throw some pieces, fill in the empty spots. And I have my cheese. One thing you want to make sure is you don't get any cheese on the crust, on the outside edge. Otherwise, that's going to touch the oven and burn up and start smoking. So you want to keep it all toward the center. All right, so that's ready. Like I said earlier, a lot of cheese, heavy everything. Let me go ahead and check on my oven, see if that's ready. All right, so this is what I'll be cooking in today. It's my Gozney Roccbox Oven. So we got our temperature at about 600 degrees. So I'm gonna go ahead and fire the pizza like that. All right, we have our pizza here. Let me go ahead and pop it in. One thing you wanna do before you pop in your pizza always, if you're new at this, is give it a little test shake and see if it's free. Otherwise, if it's stuck to it, that's how a lot of people throw it in. And instead of sliding in, it just kind of slides forward and becomes a calzone, or your toppings go everywhere. So you just want to do a quick slide around like that to make sure it's freely moving. So we're good to go. And with this kind of pizza, this is very hot. So you always want to make sure you're keeping an eye on it and constantly turning that pizza. There's a lot of people that post online that their pizza burnt and they show this big charred mess. And the only way that happens is if they just popped their pizza in, walked away, and did something else, and then came back and found it black. So, as I said earlier, once I had made my pizza, it was closer to a circle, but when I loaded it on the peel from shaking it around, it kind of squished up into an oval shape. But like I said, that's fine. As long as it cooks right and tastes good, no problem. I don't care if the pizza's triangle. That's fine with me. Starting to get some nice charring at the edges there. You see all that cheese bubbling up. I actually have one of those turners, but I kind of just got used to just pulling it out, rotating it on the peel, and popping it back in. Probably be much faster with the turners. I definitely got to start using that soon, but for now, this works for me. Oh man, one thing I love about this oven is when you're cooking this pizza, the aroma just comes out and you can just smell that nice and fresh pizza smell coming out. I cook these in my oven sometimes as well, but you don't get that same smell. You just kind of just smell the heat. But with this, you really smell that pizza cooking. All right, so there you have it. My pizza is done. Definitely happy with how it came out. Feels nice and crispy at the bottom. No burnt spots. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and cut this and eat it while it's still fresh, so I'll get back to you all and finish this video shortly. Before I go, I just want to say you don't need an actual pizza oven like I have, as you can most definitely just make these in your home oven as well. I mainly use my Roccbox for pizzas closer to a Neapolitan style with this kind of crust, but for everything else, I just throw it on the pizza stone that I have in my kitchen oven. All right, just got done with my pizza and I'm absolutely stuffed. It looked like a small pizza, but since I loaded it on so heavy, it's definitely a lot of food. One thing I hate about making pizza is I have no self-control. As I said earlier, I absolutely love pizza, but when I make some or buy some, especially if it's a good one, like right now I really like how my pizza came out. I tried a new sauce recipe and it was one of the best I've done so far, so I'm happy with that. But I was full a little over halfway through the pizza, but I just saw it there on the counter, on the tray, staring at me, and couldn't help myself. Ended up eating the whole entire thing. Alright, so as far as cons go, there's really only one major con I have with this machine, and that's that I really wish there was a way to insert and store my own recipes into the tablet. I have a lot of them stored onto apps I have on my phone, but it will be so much easier to just click the tablet, click the recipe I want, and have the machine guide me through the entire process. The tech is already in there for the recipes they include, so it really seems like a missed opportunity to not allow you to program your own recipes as well. However, I did recently speak with someone at their company and they do have plans to add features like this in the future. It's just a matter of them programming the software and rolling out an update, so hopefully we do see that soon. So when it comes to making pizza, this machine definitely works very well and does everything I hoped it would. Not to mention we now have a ton of extra counter space, so my wife was definitely very happy about that. Definitely make sure you read the instructions, as it's important to understand the basics of this machine and how everything works, but once you get past that, everything is actually very simple and easy to use. One thing I want to point out is that yes, this is a smart device with guided recipes, and yes, you can learn to cook new things on it. However, that's only one of the features it has. Recipes aside, this is a great multi-function kitchen tool that will help you save time in your regular everyday cooking. For me, I'll enjoy the recipes when I feel like trying something new, but for most part, I'll be using it like I did today with regular everyday meals I already make. Overall, this Multo is definitely a fantastic cooking device that does everything it promises to do and feels very well built. If you are looking for a great way to upgrade your kitchen, save some counter space, and learn new recipes as well, this is definitely a product I would highly recommend. Alright, well that about wraps up this video. As usual, if you have any questions at all, feel free to drop me a comment. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.